Hey guys, welcome back to another Twisted Tale recap review situation. If this is your first time here, I've been reading all of the Twisted Tales, just through rereading the first 10, and we are going to do a ranking by the end of this year to rank our favorites. Hopefully I have 2 more reviews. Actually, you'll see 3 because I'm going to try to get this up on, what's today? The 12th? The 13th? Because I have a new release. You already know what it is. I don't know why we're being suspenseful when it's the thumbnail. You know, we're talking about Sally's Lament. This just came out this past Tuesday on October 8th, and I usually don't pre-order, but I had to be first. I had to be at least one of the first because all of my other reviews have been so delayed. But we're going to talk about Sally's Lament. So what type of story did we expect going into the book for Sally's Lament? Did I have expectations is a good question because I've seen Nightmare Before Christmas. Probably a lot of people who are Disney fans and or Halloween fans have seen it. So what could the twist be? And the one-liner for Sally's Lament is, what if Sally was the first one to go to Christmas Town? Or rather, what if Sally discovered Christmas Town? If we're being literal on the wording. Obviously, since that insinuates this happens before Jack goes to Christmas Town and does everything, we're essentially yeeting the movie. You get the characters, but you get an entirely different atmosphere because Sally is the one who goes into the grove of trees where you can see all the different holidays, and she falls into Christmas Town first. So we're going to talk about what happens in the story. I'm going to read you the blurb first, as we do, and I think it's just going to be a long one, or maybe it's just 3 really long sentences, who knows, but let's read the blurb, get past that, and then I'm going to give you guys a recap of the story. What if Sally discovered Christmas Town? Sally loves her creepy home of Halloween Town, but lately she can't help wanting something more. In a place full of all things frightening, one would think living in the shadows wouldn't be so isolating. Stuck in the lab of her creator, Dr. Finkelstein, Sally is restless, feeling like nothing more than a glorified servant. She knows she can do so much more, but Dr. Finkelstein just won't listen. When Sally sneaks into the graveyard, she finds that Jack, the Pumpkin King, is having his own doubts about life in Halloween Town. Determined to find a solution for them both, Sally follows a new vision that could be the key to changing their fates. Soon, Sally uncovers a strange new land where everything is red and green, the ground is covered in ice, and the citizens are downright jolly. Could this be the change she and Jack have been longing for? But the more time Sally spends there, the more suspicious she grows that the Christmas Town cheer isn't as genuine as it first seemed. What does it truly mean to be put on the naughty list? What is lurking behind those dancing sugar plums? And will Sally be able to save the best of both towns before it's too late? I think I'm just going to preface by saying Halloween Town was never really at risk, unless you count Jack not being there a problem because he's the Pumpkin King and in charge of Halloween. But I'm getting that out of the way because I feel like that's something I'm going to forget when we recap. Because yes, Christmas Town is in peril, is in danger, but it's, Halloween Town should be okay. I'll pick someone else in charge. But how the story unfolds is we start out with Sally joining in on the Halloween festivities. Now, she is actually snuck out of Dr. Finkelstein's lab and is unbeknownst to him because he is supposedly passed out, exploring the courtyard with all the Halloween decorations and Oh, we're going to get some weird accents today. This happens every year. Obviously, we have to celebrate Halloween every year. That's the gist. But Dr. Finkelstein has never really let Sally get involved. So she's snuck out. She's joining the crowds. And Jack comes down, Mr. Pumpkin King, with his little rigged up hay horse and a pumpkin head on. Lights himself on fire as the big woo-ah of this Halloween's presentation. So every year they try to make something new for the holiday. And Sally gets to see it all. And instead of joining in on the dancing that's supposed to go until morning, dawn, give or take, she takes herself away from the crowd for a bit and goes into the graveyard where she stumbles upon Jack Skellington himself. Her vision of him up to this point was very like rock star, like he's untouchable. Everybody kind of loves him. She probably had like a little crush on him, but like not huge. Just because like he's always so confident and yada yada yada. But he's kind of looking sad. The Pumpkin King should be like out with everybody partying, but he's here also alone in the graveyard. A little bit of wallowing, hanging out with Zero. She eavesdrops a little bit to kind of hear that he's feeling the same way she is, that he wants something more. Her feelings come from being literally trapped in Dr. Finkelstein's lab forever, only being able to sneak out by using some nightshade potions. They instantly like have a connection. Like obviously Sally's a little bit more aware of it because she eavesdropped. But when they do start talking, they have a heart-to-heart, hang out on Spiral Hill. It's a nice little cute conversation of them starting to get to know each other. But basically, they both have been wanting something more, sort of like an adventure. Especially where Sally's like, I would love to do something before I get stuck in the lab again. Actually, that's kind of how she ends up in the graveyard is Dr. Finkelstein awoke from the potion that she gave him instead of being knocked out all night. Tried to like drag her back and she escaped into the graveyard because he's in his little chair and he can't follow her that fast. So that's how that happened. Now, obviously Sally doesn't want to go back because he's going to be pissed. So instead of going back to the lab, she starts following Zero, kind of just like wandering around. And Zero leads her out into the hinterlands where the grove of holiday trees are. So we see, you know, there's an Easter tree, there's a turkey tree, so Thanksgiving. I think the starry fireworks one is either New Year. It has to be New Year's. I don't think it would be Independence Day, to be honest. And then obviously the Christmas tree. Zero, this boy, this dog, you know it's always going to be the dogs. Zero kind of jumps in to the Christmas tree hole. And Sally tumbles in after him, not knowing where it goes, what happens. And this is when she has her first vision, kind of like before she really wakes up in the Christmas world, because we're not quite in Christmas town yet either. She has this vision of like people being scared and this big shadowy monster like marching on with this jingle staff. Okay, so remember the jingles. Also like Sugar Plum Fairies dancing. Very key part to the vision. But she wakes up surrounded by snow and cold and wet. And she is a rag doll. So she is like absorbing that in, chilled to the bones if she had any, which is a phrase that we get a couple times. And she starts making her way to look for Zero. Because of course Zero didn't stick around. But she's got to find Zero before she can head back home, or else like Jack would be sad. As she gets down the hill, this is when she enters Christmas Town, where obviously it's Christmas. We got lights, we got festivities, we got smells of like eggnog and cookies and all that. It's great. It's great. If you ever been to Frankenmuth up in Michigan, apparently that's like Christmas Town. As she's wandering around Christmas Town, getting greeted by all these nice little elves, she stumbles upon a store that actually has sugar plums for sale. And she doesn't have any money, because obviously we didn't come here planning with any currency. The guy is like, well, I can't let you leave without anything, because that wouldn't be very nice. I'm going to say nice weird, because it's important. So because he's trying to be nice, he gives her a bag of the sugar plums so she can sample. And yes, this is the only connection really to the sugar plums in her dream. But essentially, she's like, well, this is kind of nice. Like in a normal nice, I guess. She's like, this is very different from Halloween Town. Like those presents must be defective because they're not like bursting open with a jack-in-the-box or anything. So obviously she's comparing things to Halloween Town, which I think was written very well in terms of like, if you grew up living in Halloween and you suddenly saw like Christmas stuff, like the lights on the trees or like the different foods and drinks, you'd be like, who would do that? Why? That doll is too perfect. Like it needs to be dirty and imperfect to like be scary. There's nothing scary here, right? Things we don't quite internalize. While she's going around, Sally happens to meet another doll. This is a porcelain doll. She's one of many who are like lined up for the talent show. And her name is Abigail. Abigail's gonna be our BFF because she's already super nice, but like a real nice, not the nice. She's a real nice. She's like, yeah, you should try it for the talent show. So Sally's like, maybe I will, but really she's just gonna go and kind of watch and kind of learn things, because while she's talking to Abigail, some little kid throws a snowball at her, hits her in the face, sticks his tongue out at her. It's a kid. Immediately, 10 soldiers show up, yoink the kid away in a sack, and everybody else is just not stopping them, like not doing anything, not interfering. They're all just kind of going back to their nice ways and like everything's fine. Suspicious, right? Suspicious. Now during, or I guess leading up to Sally's like need to escape from Christmas Town, she also does get to meet the big jolly guy. And while she is meeting him, because she had to get Zero before she left. Zero was up at basically the workshop area, hanging out with the reindeer, playing Rudolph because his little nose glows, and he's just leading the reindeer around. So then the elf takes her and introduces her to Santa, which is where she also comes across Mr. Jingles. Mr. Jingles sounds like he's a tall elf, kind of like the critic from Ratatouille. Antoine from Ratatouille, but like elf version, and also with a gavel that has a jingle bell on it. Remember that. And Mr. Jingles is very off in terms of like that fake nice. A little bit later during the talent show, there's like a robot who malfunctions and ends up also getting taken away in a sack. So while they're like trying to grab the robot, Sally thinks, oh, I need to take the attention off of him because the crowd's like all super focused and everything. So she goes up to the stage, takes off her head, and like holds it out and does a scary thing. Like that's her scary trick. Everybody freaks out, runs away. This unfortunately also gets the Tin Soldiers' attention on her, which is when Abigail comes out, was like, come with me, we gotta hide because they're gonna catch you too. And nobody knows what happens when they take away the naughty people. That's why everyone's being so nice, because they don't want to get taken away. And knowing this, and also having acquired Zero, Sally's like, I'm going to get out of here. So she heads back to Halloween Town, where the first person she goes to is Jack. Because of all the people who would appreciate her story, it had to be Jack. Like, and he's still awake, so I might as well go talk to him. It turns out very much how she expected it would, because he wants to go. He wants to see what's so special about Christmas Town and have that adventure and get that inspiration, because he'd be struggling with like ideas for next year's Halloween. So they go together. They're only supposed to go for 2 hours. But I mean, after you try hot chocolate and burn your lack of a tongue, let's remember Jack Skellington is bones. He's a skeleton. Does not have flesh. So it doesn't have like a tongue and organs and stuff yet. He still burns himself when he drinks the hot cocoa. I can understand him getting cold just because he is only bones. And I guess bruising his bones because they go ice skating and he falls a lot. So that part is fine. There's a part a little bit later where I'm like, we know he doesn't have flesh. But we'll get to it. So they're hanging out and Jack is being very obedient because Sally's like, you have to listen and not stand out. Here's this like fake Santa costume so you won't stand out. And currently Sally is also wearing Abigail's dress because in her hurry to escape from the talent show with Abigail, when they switch dresses so Sally can escape back home. They're planning to only be around Christmas Town for a couple hours just to like see the sights, get the ideas, and get out of there because Sally knows something's up. But she can't find Abigail. She runs into another doll named Tammy who's like, what did you do with her? Like, it's all your fault. They took her away. And when Sally realizes Abigail was taken away, this changes everything. We're not going back home until we save her because Sally's like taking on responsibility for it. And also, like, it's very suspicious that people are just like disappearing. So they break into Santa's workshop, find out where the naughties, are we going to call them naughties? The naughty people have been taken, and it's actually hidden behind Mr. Jingle's own like personal nice and naughty list. It's not in Christmas Town. Christmas Town is definitely a place on the map, but there's like woods and there's cabins out there and there's a whole other landscape in this Christmas world. So they're following the map that they stole from Mr. Jingle's office out into the woods, and they come across the Nog Bog, which sounds like it should be something in Halloween Town, except for very cinnamony, because Sally starts sinking into it, and like we know eggnog is basically eggs and sugar and cinnamon, but she's thinking in it like quicksand. Thanks to her quick thinking, which is a credit to her, she does have a very good head on her shoulders, even though she can take it off her shoulders. She kind of like makes herself float enough that she can grab the stick that Jack is like reaching out to her so she can be pulled to safety. So he saves her life. Mind you, through this whole Christmas Town excursion with him, they are getting closer and closer and closer, and we're actually like building up a romantic relationship. Like, it's not full on, like, they acknowledge it's a romantic, but Jack, I think from the beginning, has kind of had the googly eyes for her, even though he doesn't have eyes technically. But it's like the way he looks at her is very like admiring. He's not quite as like self-centered as he is in the movies. He's much more nice in a real way. So obviously with him saving her, there's that little extra like charm check mark. They do find an abandoned cabin and they get to spend the night there, like getting cozy and warm, and he helps like make a bath to wash off all the eggnog sticky goo. And while they are about to go to bed, Sally goes into the bedroom. Jack is staying out front by the fire. She has another vision, and this is of the elf couple who lived in that cabin as they are being taken away by soldiers, and Mr. Jingles, I believe he was there as well. But they tell Sally like she's the key, she's the one that can help them. Quite literally referencing that there's a key in the drawer for her to grab. With that added sense of desperation, the next day they head out, keep looking for what are essentially like coal caves, like mining coal. They just think they're being imprisoned there. But after they get through the caroling cliffs, where Jack almost dies because the caroling is like a spell that's definitely influencing whoever's listening. But Sally saves him, so they're even now. So they get through that. They get through the blizzard with the help of Zero. Remember the glowy nose light? Like, he literally brings the reindeers in the sleigh and, like, saves them from the blizzard. And they go to the coal mines, right? They use the little remainder of the sugar plums that they have to, like, make a Hansel and Gretel trail. And they come to the locked door. They're expecting to see, like, prison cells, like, everybody chained up. Like, Halloween Town at least has a pretty good idea of what prison would look like, or a jail. But it's just this empty void of a room with, like, no decorations, no furniture, really. And it's intentional. So the room is a big, huge, cavernous room. And they've all been trapped there. All these naughty people who have been sent there by Mr. Jingle. Because they didn't show the Christmas spirit. Hence, they were dubbed naughty. And because of that, essentially, the emptiness of the room is so it doesn't give them any more Christmas spirit, and it just lets it all get taken away. It's just like a sensory deprivation chamber for everybody, but they've been fighting back because he can't stop them from singing. So they've been like doing Christmas songs together. Well, good. We found the prisoners. Great. Where's Abigail? She's sitting alone in a corner, kind of like depressed and sad because in the process of her getting taken, her leg cracked. Okay, she's a porcelain doll, and her biggest dream was to win the talent show so she could get in Santa's sleigh and be given to a child on Christmas. But only perfect toys get to go to children. And with her being cracked and now imperfect, her dream is ruined. So she is depressing. Even though, like, yay, Sally came to save me, like, the tables have sort of flipped emotionally where Sally's being the optimistic one and Abigail is the one needing cheering up. But yay, we found everybody, right? We're about to escape, right? No. A giant coal monster named Soot Fang rises up, and he's basically the prison guard, or just like the creature that's keeping everybody trapped in. He very quickly disposes of Jack, and I just say that like he made a huge bunch of rocks fall onto Jack, essentially knocking him out and trapping him. So it's just Sally left to defend and try to help the others escape, who they're all trembling because this is a big scary monster and they're Christmas Town people. They only know nice. Abigail is the one that comes up with the idea for Sally to do her trick and take her head off to scare the monster, which kind of goes in a little bit different way because rather than the monster necessarily being scared and running away, he's almost like on the verge of crying because he's like, you're like me, you're a monster too. And he gets to like this whole little backstory of growing up different in Christmastown and just not being accepted. Obviously, he's this random monster. He's literally a monster creature in Christmastown with all these happy jolly elves, which is why he was sent to the coal mines to be the monster guard. So they are like, you can come to Halloween Town with us. You're gonna love it. It's got the slug stew that you want, which I think this the slug stew, when it's first mentioned by Sally, it's the witch's slug stew. Having read this book, which now you're going to see the review for this next week because I wanted to get this one up as soon as possible. Madam Mim also makes a slug stew, and she's a witch. So I'm like, is this a nod to Madam Mim? It felt like a nod to me. But apparently slug stew is a big thing. Soot Fang likes to make it, and she's like, we have all the slug stew. Like, it's our like main dish, sort of, kind of, but not really. But it could be if you want to do us a favor, and we'll take you to Halloween Town. So he releases everybody. They go back to Christmastown because they're not just going to like leave things as is. They still need to address Mr. Jingles. So Sally makes her stand at the top of a Christmas tree in like the center of Christmastown, calling out to everybody and getting Mr. Jingles' attention, getting the soldiers' attention, where it's like, you know, you're the one who's ruined the spirit of Christmas because you were making people feel less friendly toward their neighbors because they don't want to be taken away for doing something by mistake or like just, right, you just gave everybody bad vibes. And he's like, well, I'm going to arrest all you guys. Power tripping. Which is when Santa comes out and he's like, no, because I didn't realize things got this bad out of hand. So Mr. Jingles gets banished. Santa resets the vibe. Everybody's so happy that Santa's back in charge, more or less. I mean, he's been in charge, but Mr. Jingles really was running things while Santa was too busy to pay attention, sort of situation. But now things are better. Now things are going to be back to normal. By Sally's request, he gives Abigail a chance to have her own child, like be a present to a child, which was that was probably one of the nicest like ending scenes. So I'm gonna just let you guys read that. And of course they're like friendly with Jack now, so he's like, yeah, you can come visit Halloween Town if you need a break. And then when Sally and Jack go back to Halloween Town, it's time for Sally to stand up to Dr. Finkelstein and be like, I'm not going back to your lab. I am my own independent woman. Especially because she's like, I have skills. I can get a job. I'm going to get an apartment. Which it was very like kid moving out, kind of like, I can do all these things. And I'm just like, oh, but apartments are really expensive. But that's just reality kicking in. So she gets an apartment above the witch's slug stew shop of all places. And she starts her own shop called Patterns and Potions because she made her own dress, but she likes having like the mix of patterns and things. And obviously she makes potions but it's a week later and she and Jack have their sort of post-adventure reunion meetup on Spiral Hill. Had their little heart-to-heart where like Sally's taking the initiative and she's like, I want to kiss you. And this is where it was like her lips touched Jack's, or like specifically mentioning Jack's lips. And I'm like, but we know he don't got lips. He's a skeleton. But yeah, I mean, like, if those are the things that are going to take me out of the story, this really wasn't written poorly at all. Like, the best way I can explain the vibes to you is like a little bit of Hallmark movie, a little bit of like Disney's Santa Claus with Tim Allen series, like where obviously things are going wrong and it's like kind of bad, but it's Christmassy, so it's still very lighthearted. I mean, there were moments in here where the characters were in peril. I didn't necessarily feel terrified of their deaths. One, because Jack Skellington is like basically already dead. It's one of those where like there's too many pages left in this book for this to be the end, you know, right? Whereas with some of these other books, like this one right behind me, Aladdin, yeah, we was worried for people and we felt things. So I wouldn't say like in a medium stakes, I guess, especially since it wasn't happening to Halloween Town, which is their home. Like, yes, they could have ended up not being able to return, but it was the stakes of Christmas Town, and it still felt all holly jolly and nice. It is what it is. The relationship between Jack and Sally is probably one of the strongest points in the book. And I remember as I was reading it, I was trying to like do a quick vibe of like the romance feelings between these other books. And there was a couple that stood out. But I think this is definitely, like, if you are a Jack and Sally stan, this is going to be a good book to add to your entourage because it's very slow burn, building up that romantic feeling between them. As far as Sally's growth as a character as well, believable. For the longest time, of course, she was hooked up on the feeling that, like, she felt like she couldn't do anything and she was under Dr. Finkelstein's control, but it was with each and every event that she was able to overcome, she felt a little more confident. So I think her character growth was really well done. Mr. Jingles as a villain, you know, power hungry, like, fine. Like, even though he as a threat was present throughout the whole story, his presence wasn't like dominating. So it really was more of a Jack and Sally's own growth. It's Sally's Lament. And really, just as a reading experience, aside from a couple typos, which is like normal for books nowadays, this was a nice, easy read. Like, and I said it's cozy. It's not dark, twisted tale like we had with some of the earlier ones. It's cozy. You can read it for Halloween. You can probably definitely read it for Christmas because it's got Christmas movie vibes. And that's how I felt about Sally's Lament. So check it out for yourselves. Again, it just released. I did get my copy on Amazon. I'm sure it is available in other places, but it's got the hardcover dust jacket and everything, so it fits perfectly with the set. And then now next week, you guys are going to see the review for Set in Stone. I'm just not going to tell you anything about right now because it's coming out next week. I do have the other Suddenly Super and Princess of Thieves on order. It's supposed to be coming from Australia because it only released in the UK and Australia. So we'll see when those get here and when they fall on the schedule for Twisted Tale reviews. But we just went over Sally and we're going to go over Set in Stone next week. Do I have a special question for you guys? I guess we could do like a Halloween theme. I mean, feel free to leave a comment below or a question about the book or about any of the Twisted Tale stuff. But if you just want to leave a comment, let me know what you guys, if you enjoy Halloween, because I know it's not for everybody, but if you are a Halloween person, what do you specifically enjoy about the holiday? I like the idea of dressing up. I haven't got to do it forever, really. Like, I think I've had two in my life just because we didn't really do Halloween growing up. But I do like dressing up for Halloween. I think that's a lot of fun. But yeah, that is our little recap review for Sally's Lament. Hope you guys enjoyed it and look forward to the next one. I'll see you then. Bye.